today's meeting, I thought it would be helpful to have Judith and Cait, who are from the great state of New Jersey, talk with us about about their I have my Garden State water safety right here on my shelf. That I might have you guys talk about your experience in getting close to publishing your strategy, your recent summit, and just share a little bit about what that's been like for you guys over, well, you're 2 years into this specific project, but Judith, I know you've been doing this work for your entire life. So these meetings are typically pretty casual, and it's more of like peer-to-peer learning and support. So Judith or Cait, do you want to just start off by kind of summarizing what you guys have been doing for the last few years?
Oh, just hanging around eating
actually,
bonbons, doing nothing.
Maybe it'll be more helpful for us to do a quick round of introductions so that everyone understands their backgrounds. My name is Megan Ferraro. I'm the executive director of the Zach Foundation for Children's Safety. And I'm also currently serving as chair of the steering committee for the U.S. National Water Safety Action Plan and as board chair of the California Water Safety Coalition, along with my good friend, Mark. Tina, why don't you go next?
Yeah, so everyone, I think I know everybody now, but I'm the interim director for the U.S. National Water Safety Action Plan. So really here just to support everyone in whatever their needs are and making sure that we have the resources and the tools that are available to you to do the work that you're doing so wonderfully at the state level.
Judith?
I'm Judith Leblein Josephs. Judith is just fine. And I've been rumbling around the great state of New Jersey and parks, recreation, and water park management for more than 40 years. I'm a founding board member of the New Jersey Swim Safety Alliance and also represent the water park world and the New Jersey Recreation and Park Association in all these endeavors. I am one of two authors. I have the honor of working with Coach Chuck Warner, a very famous USA Swimming Hall of Famer, college coach. He and I are writing the New Jersey specific water safety strategy. And then there's Cait Waxler, our fearless leader.
Hi, everyone. My name's Cait Waxler. I am outside of Philly, but I'm doing a lot with New Jersey right now. Day job, I work for the American Red Cross. So I'm the aquatic specialist for New Jersey and then the Philadelphia metro area. And then I'm also the board chair of NJSSA, which is New Jersey Swim Safety Alliance. And it is our organization that has taken ownership of the New Jersey strategy. So that's one of the big things that NJSSA has been working on in the last 2 years. And Chuck and Judith have been leading the way for that specific project for us.
And Cait, I forgot to mention our bathing suit drive, which we have done for the last 2 years, coordinated with the New Jersey Recreation and Park Association and Dolphin Swimwear. And just yesterday, I picked up 1,600 bathing suits. And last year we collected 3,000 and distributed them statewide, and we would be happy to teach and share our process. It started in 2018, and the campaign is bathing suits lead to swim lessons and swim lessons save lives. And I know Megan's been witness to how so many children show up for the Zach Foundation swim camps with no bathing suits until they get our beautiful, brand new, really looking good bathing suits. And it saves the day. So we're really proud of that. And we're happy to share that with any state that would like to mimic that campaign.
Thank you, Judith. That was great. Austin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Austin Sprayberry. I am the program manager over the Pool Safely Grant with Columbus Public Health. Yeah, I've got much less credentialing, but I'm in the very early stages of trying to set up a water safety action plan for Columbus specifically, but I'm cluing in ODH as well so that we can hopefully get something expanded on a little bit larger level, but just trying to get stuff working here so that we can see how we can expand it out long term.
Thank you. Dr. Simonian?
Mark Simonian. I'm a pediatrician. I'm on the American Academy of Pediatrics Council of Injury Prevention. I chair the Water Safety Council of Fresno County, and I'm on the board of the California Coalition.
I'm so glad everyone had the chance to get to know each other. Judith and Cait, do you want to start off by sharing a little bit about your experience in building your strategy over the last year and a half or 2 years? I'm sure Austin will have some questions, and maybe Dr. Simonian will be able to weigh in as well on his experience in California.
Kate,
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
let you
gonna-
take the lead and I'll fill in.
Yeah.
You can take the lead, Kate.
I was just going to kind of give some background of how we got started, and then I was going to hand it over to you to kind of talk a little bit more about the strategy. But NJSSA actually started over COVID. We realized in the state of New Jersey, great state, tons of people doing really great things in water safety and education, but there was no unified voice. So when things were starting to open back up, indoor pools specifically were last on the governor's list. Tattoo parlors, pet shops were opening, but indoor pools weren't able to actually run. And so a group of folks got together, mostly through Zoom, to talk about, hey, how do we get the governor's ear? How do we safely open pools? So I kind of jumped in on the Red Cross side, and it was really great to see so many passionate individuals who typically are seen as competitors in a space. So a lot of swim school owners, competitive folks, all doing aquatics in tons of different ways, but not necessarily talking to each other. So NJSSA was kind of formed with this idea of how do we get pools open safely, what, protocols should be in place, but how can we get, swimmers back in? We already saw a few drownings that happened. And our thoughts were if those kids were in swim lessons, they would know how to swim, but they weren't allowed to be in swim lessons. So how do we kind of, so Chuck Warner took the lead. He was our first board president. And then there was just a really great group of folks who it was very grassroots efforts. And then COVID ended, and it was kind of like, what's next? And we really enjoyed talking to each other and networking, and we realized there was a lot more to do within the state. And we kind of pivoted from more COVID focus to drowning prevention. So NJSSA, we started with a postcard. We have a postcard initiative, trying to get postcards with water safety information and a link to our website to newborn parents. The postcard also goes with the bathing suit drive that Judith talked about. And then we started hearing about state-specific plans and strategies. And we were like, that really makes sense for us to jump on board with that. So with the help of the Zach Foundation, we had our first Garden State Summit 2 years ago. And it was really a chance to get stakeholders in a room that necessarily haven't been together. So from state police that do ice safety to aquatic managers, swim school owners. Judith was amazing as bringing in the water park folks, park and rec individuals, YMCAs, other nonprofits, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, pediatricians,
Mermaids.
anyone, right?
Mermaids.
Anyone, right? We had a professional mermaid, which I didn't even know was a thing really, but she's a professional mermaid, and she was there talking about water safety and things like that. So that was really our first kickoff event. We just had our second event, so I'll let Judith get into the nuts and bolts, but I just wanted to kind of give some background information. I think we were almost lucky that we started during COVID because people had a lot of time on their hands, so they were willing to jump on Zooms and get involved, and that kind of gave us a really great list of professionals to really talk to. And really, Judith has done an amazing job, and our board members as well, of saying, okay, who is not represented? Who has not been at the table? So when we're looking at the strategy for the state of New Jersey, we can have as many voices as possible, reaching out. We have a large Hasidic Jewish population that still does gender-specific swimming in Ocean County, New Jersey. How do we get their voices heard? They have specific needs. How do we make sure that we're hitting the beach lifeguards and the lake lifeguards and the pools that we have? So we really were trying to be strategic to make sure that we had folks from all different avenues of aquatics to be at the table.
So NJSSA was fortunate that I chose to retire from going to the same place every single day in 2019. And the way that NJSSA in its early stages found me was because I was recently retired. I had 45 years in aquatics in New Jersey, and as well as an international presence in the World Water Park Association. And so I had volunteered to the State Department of Health to help them try to put together some type of regulations to get us all swimming again. And it's interesting what conflict will create, huge friendships now. But in the beginning, when I stated that recreational swim teams probably would not happen in the first summer of COVID, I made a lot of enemies out there in the swim team world. But that's how they found me. And then I think after time of getting to know each other, they realized it was better to keep me around. So I'm one of the founding board members. What did Chuck call me? The chief arm twister of NJSSA, because I've been fortunate to develop quite a Rolodex for the young people on the group. This is my list of phone numbers. And we've been able to fund both Garden State Water Safety Summit, the first one, and Summit 2.0, the second. And join these groups of people that really weren't talking to each other, including our new best friend, NESPA, the Northeast Spa and Pool Association, who's very committed to us, not only with helping us fund our 2 summits, but also helping us fund our strategy. Because besides all the writing and all the time, you need to publish this thing, and we need an editor. And it's a lot of work, but it's our mission, it's our passion, and Chuck and I are trying to be as inclusive as possible. And it is funny, we have mermaids. I have to say to Doc Simon that we were jealous of California. What a beautiful document, and lots of sponsorships. And also, you just have to tell me somebody did this much and I'm going to try to top it. And that's how this group, we're a very competitive New Jersey bunch. And what we're really proud of is the diversity of the groups we brought together. The water park community was not necessarily very active in California or in the preliminary stages in Texas. But we saw them, and because of my association with them, they have come out in droves and are so committed and so excited. And so you now have water park operators talking to the Coast Guard and beach lifeguards talking to mermaids, and all kinds of collaborations happening. So if nothing else happens but this unification of a voice, then that's a great task that you've taken on. At one point in New Jersey, and this is how I earned my living in college, was you could not graduate from a state college or university without proving that you could swim. So I taught athletes who sunk like rocks how to swim good enough to keep their scholarship and get out of college. And there was such an emphasis on public swimming and free swim lessons and inclusion. And then when they stopped doing that at the university level, suddenly the interest, the focus on swimming, where we have the ocean here, we have lakes and rivers and streams and thousands of public swimming pools and dozens of water parks and paid attractions, but no one was any longer interested in water safety and in the development of a lifetime activity of swimming. And we have been able to successfully bring together pool builders, water park operators, and Cait listed them all, the Coast Guard. We didn't even know the state police were teaching ice rescue, and we weren't even focused on ice rescue. So we're learning more and more each day, and that's been great. So what we did, I had scheduled an educational session at the NJRPA, New Jersey Rec and Parks Association conference, with Chuck and Cait and some other major players in New Jersey, to say that water safety is all of our obligations, that you can't just look at your agency, you have to think of it globally. You know, how are we all going to make a safer world? And as a part of that, 2 people from the Zach Foundation happened to be in the audience that day, and the rest is history. They said to us, hey, Jersey, we'll help you if you're willing to be the next state to have their own specific plan. So the way we did this was the first summit got us all together, and we brainstormed. We broke out into groups, and we made a list under 6 or 8 different categories of water safety. What could we do better? And we made these lists, and it was a great exercise, people talking together. We worked for a whole day together. We had some presentations, and we had certainly statistics. And one of the things, and Doc, you'll probably agree with this, the statistical data is surely missing in every state. And even though the CDC comes out with numbers, it's not soon enough, and it's not recent enough. And so we've been trying to do our own research on some of that. But even the state of New Jersey can't pinpoint where are the drowning deaths and who are they and how did it happen. So by putting all these groups together, we're getting better data. Without data, we can't argue, so that's been the biggest thing. So
Judith,
in the
just
first
so you know,
summit,
Megan has her hand up. So
oh, I'm
I
sorry,
think
Megan.
has,
Hi.
yeah, no, you're good.
I'm like a
That's
train.
okay.
I just start
Yeah,
going,
My question really was, I just was listening to you, Judith, and thinking about, I wonder what was it, something happening politically? What was happening culturally in our country at the time that those swimming lessons that were required stopped? I wonder.
I can tell you a little bit about it.
Okay, yeah, I'd be
I
interested.
think what happened is a combination of things. I think we went into the 60s and the 70s with a lot of urban blight. We had a lot of budgets being cut. There's a big correlation between civic unrest and the lack of places to cool off. And we're starting to talk about that again, about what do they call it, sustainability and resiliency. There's new words for it. But I think what started to happen is public money into swimming started to dry up. And then people like me that teach in the water park business how to make money at a swimming facility, we kind of countered. So a lot of municipalities gave up on their aging swimming pools. And they started to say, hey, swimming, if you can't cover your budget, we can't cover you. And I think that started. I do think that, the urbanization of America, it got harder for cities to have swimming pools. And then a lot of the pools were built with WPA money and post-war money. And a lot of those pools got old. And then it got expensive to fix them. And a lot in New Jersey, we don't have a ton of indoor pools. So a lot of our swimming is seasonal. And I think those things all added up, Megan, cultural, municipal budgets, focus, and priorities. And, there were so many things we were dealing with in the 60s and 70s and into the 80s that when you got down to budgets, swimming had to go. And, I spent a lot of years in public recreation, and I never had a fight for money for a football stadium. Never. I never had a fight for money for a lacrosse field. But I have to fight for money for improvements to a swimming pool, or I have to make that swimming pool a cost recovery area. And I think every state kind of sees that. So I think it was a combination of those things. And just the world got more difficult. Life got more difficult. Two parents are working. When you schedule swim lessons 4 days a week, Monday to Thursday at 10 a.m. in the morning, that swim lesson registration is going to fall off drastically. And the very kids we want to reach, we say things to them like, you can't go to a public pool without a mother or father. Well, mothers and fathers are working 6 and 7 days a week. So those kids don't go to the pool. So it's a kind of a slippery slope. Does that make sense, Megan?
It does. Yeah, it's helpful. It's helpful to hear about the timing, right? The 60s and 70s and just some of those pieces of context I think are helpful.
Coincidentally, the Newark riots were in 1967. And I'm old enough to remember it and be scared out of my wits. We could hear the gunfire from where I lived. And it's no coincidence that there were no public pools or public recreation that year because of budget cuts. Duh, right? So now one of the things that New Jersey Swim Safety Alliance is working with the Department of Environmental Protection about identifying where kids could cool off in a heat emergency. Now all of a sudden DEP is even interested in swimming. So it's all sort of kind of coming back around. There's an old song, everything old is new again. And so I think there's that interest. And then along came the swim schools. And I think that is pivotal. Parks and recreation people weren't willing to have or didn't have the hours available at their pools for Saturday mornings, Sunday night swim lessons. So the swim schools come in and they start saying, we give lessons 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And suddenly people started going out to commercial properties to learn to swim. And then everybody's talking about swim lessons. And then we just have to keep working to try to get the urban environment to have swimming lessons where it's most needed, you know? So I think, does that answer some of your question? It's a little long answer. It'll be in my next book. So we had these 2 summits. So the first summit, we identified in 8 categories, like dozens of things. And we knew we couldn't do them all, but it was a start, right? So then in the second summit, we said, okay, it's got to be your top 3. So go at it, guys. We broke them up into 6 groups. We brought the 8 down to 6. Am I right, Cait? 8 down to 6. And we said, give us your top 3. And then there were some interesting conversations going on because we can't do them all. We can defer some of them to later, but we have our main priorities. And that's how the strategy is going to be written. So our strategy compared to the beautiful California strategy will be very much like the personalities of people from New Jersey. Short, sweet, in your face. You know, it's not gonna be the prettiest document perhaps, but it's gonna be real and it's gonna tell it like it is and tell the state what we need and why. And we're even talking to joint insurance funds. We would like to do like Arizona and get involved with the building inspectors and the pool inspectors. And, you know, really, it's got to be big. It cannot be an afterthought anymore. Some of our members say things like it's got to be as sure as Stop, Drop, and Roll or October's Breast Cancer Month. And we have May as Water Safety Month, but we never really did enough with it. You know, we really got to hit it out of the park. So it's exciting. It's a lot of work, but it's really gratifying work. And New York, although they have not done their own strategy, they've been making strides with their governor, getting all kinds of money associated with swimming pools and building swimming pools. But, you know, we hope to get there too. And it's really gratifying. Did we need it to come along at that time? But, you know, there's never a good time, right? Never a good time to start some project. So fortunately, I have a little extra time to give. And I learned to swim for 10 cents at a Newark City pool. And I've been paying it back ever since. And I'm committed to it. So we're going to make it happen. And Austin, we stand ready to help. We'll share our PowerPoints with you. We'll tell you about our process. And we've gotten better at it. The Summit 2.0 cost us about $3,000, but in kind from water parks building major banners for us and all kinds of in-kind gifts and services, we were able to not only cover the expenses of the summit, but walk away with maybe another $8,000, which for us is big time, you know?
Yeah.
That's big time. And it's one sponsor at a time, one member at a time. Like you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. But many of the people on our board have seen a lifeless child on a pool deck or have been involved in a rescue at a beach. Our newest, most exciting thing was we had 2 NDPA water champions named. One of them, St. Benedict's School in Newark, which is a preparatory school. Most of those kids are on scholarship. They're Benedictine monks that run that school, and they're committed. Every kid must learn to swim before they graduate. And because of that, they staff lifeguards. They teach them life skills to work as lifeguards. They have a water polo team now. They have a crew team and they have a swim team. And they're totally committed to it. So they were honored. Thank you, NDPA. And then our new favorite is Captain Jack, a water rescue dog, and his owner, who is a beach lifeguard, who he walks around on beaches and at special events and stuff, and he has trading cards and stickers, and he teaches kids how to be safe in the ocean. And he was the star. I mean, Cait, you gave me a tiara, but that dog, he's a star. And
Oh,
We
the
had a
dog
mermaid
was
last year, a
had
dog
a
this year.
mermaid.
I can't wait to see what happens
what's next? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like to get shot out of a cannon, Megan. You know, I'm a bit of a carnival folk, but that comes from my water park and amusement park world. But I am really especially proud to say about the diversity that we had in that room. And all races, all cultures, all disciplines. And one thing did happen, Cait, which pretty much they said, NJSSA, New Jersey Swim Safety Alliance, you can be our voice.
Right.
And getting that many groups to say that is really gratifying. Like, they're like, we have our own thing, but you can be our voice and we're going to be part of that. And we had members, and gratifying all around. Now,
And I think diversity is still on our forefront of,
yeah,
you know, we're, you know, doing it better, but I still always think there's more, especially when we're looking at the water safety or the drowning rates in New Jersey. When you actually put names attached, it's definitely leaning heavy. I mean, the 1 to 4-year-olds, which makes sense, but we're also about 18 to 25 males, Hispanic last names. I can say they're Hispanic last names. I don't know some ethnicities we know, but they seem to be happening after hours in lakes, reservoirs, streams, especially during very hot times. So how do we get that message out? Do we need to have more information
and
available
some other
in
issues like
Spanish? Are there more
alcohol.
Hispanic groups that we need to be reaching out to? So that's definitely something we're going to be diving into. One of our keynote speakers at the summit, Henry Cordicans, is Hispanic and trains lifeguards, and he was very powerful. But how do we get more, especially when we're looking at those numbers in our state? How do we make sure that we're hitting individuals where they're at, to make sure that those communities are getting the message out there and being safe? And, you know, a lot of times it was just they didn't realize the reservoir was as deep as it was. You know, it starts shallow and then goes super deep. You know, what do we need to do within the strategy to make sure that we're hitting those risk factors?
It's a hard target
Judith-
market to reach, but if we reach them early, all we could hope is that you reach them early and with years and with time. But it's a very hard target market to reach. And we worked with the state police also trying to find out how many times is alcohol involved. And in boating accidents that also are drowning accidents, there's a lot of alcohol involved. So that's a different message, but it's an associated message. And I think one of the gratifying things, you know, I glossed over it, but our bathing suit campaign is not only do children who get free or reduced swim lessons, but in many of our instances, we also provide bathing suits at city pools. So if you show up on a hot day, you don't get turned away and go and look for an alternate source to cool off. You can get a new bathing suit and you can swim. And we don't care if it is associated with a lesson, if it gets them in a safe, supervised environment. And there have been really great other things that came of it. Like our water parks, they also did so much on social media. We had hundreds of thousands of social media posts because of the water parks and the major aquatic centers that just kept sending out social media impressions about bathing suit drive. And one by one, those bathing suits came in. And then we heard all kinds of stories. Like there's a company that just gave us, it's called the Swimsuit Station. If you ever need to buy lots of swimsuits for your gift shop. One email, we got 500 bathing suits. And it's a female-owned, lovely woman, Jeanette Lando. When I went to pick them up, she said to me, "You guys have inspired me. Guess what I started doing?" I said, "What?" She's 75. She started swimming lessons. So she got the message. So we're hoping that parents get the message, when kids get the message. And now we have a grant, right, Cait, with Diversity in Aquatics and Rowan?
We do. So we have a grant with Rowan University, their Institute of Public Health, to try to actually help with some of the data in New Jersey behind drowning, which Megan made a great comment in the box about how do we engage either faith-based leaders or other leaders to hit the organizations or the demographics that we're looking to serve. So as we're looking at the Hispanic 18 to 25-year-old males, and as much as I would like to say I have the solution on how to get males to not be stupid between 18 and 25, I do not have that solution. But
I have two that haven't figured it out yet.
Right? Starting in kindergarten, we have or whatever, school age, by the time hopefully they get old enough, they're not doing those risky behaviors. I think that's a huge piece of it. But I love Megan's idea of faith-based leaders. So I guess opening it up, has anyone had luck reaching out to faith-based leaders or other non-aquatic organizations to kind of loop in to get that message out there?
I think we've gotten to some churches through the bathing suit drive because they like the charitable nature of collecting bathing suits, and then people start having dialogue. But I think it's really, really difficult to get to that target market, and we may have to work on that more. Unfortunately, you all know this. If someone someone famous from the Hispanic community lost a son in a lake incident, there would be potentially more media attention. There would be potentially more money from the state. There'd be a law named after him. It's the political reality of influence. And it's really hard to get people to understand drowning until they've experienced it themselves, either in their family. Would you agree, doctor, that until it's real, would you agree that it's hard for people to associate with drowning? Right, you're muted. Yeah, unfortunately, you're muted, Doc.
There
you
we go, finally. I'm pressing the wrong button. So we haven't really reached out to faith-based folks. So I can't have any, I don't have any insights there.
But
I
it's
wish I
hard to
could
get
help.
people excited about reform for drowning prevention until they experience a drowning in some way.
Well,
It's a
our
tradition
experience
here
is,
in New Jersey. If somebody has an auto accident, unfortunate auto accident, next thing you know, there's a law named after that person. And it happens all the time here. But we haven't had a high profile drowning in this state. And it sounds so callous, Doc, but people don't get it.
well,
Until it hits them.
what we found here, at least locally, is that when family has had such a tragedy, there's a huge amount of guilt that it was their fault, which often they do play some role in. And so they're embarrassed to come out and speak up. And it's been rare to get those folks to come and be willing to testify or give comment. They just are grieving and it sits there.
Yeah. And in our social media world, let's look at some drownings that have happened and you see how angry some of the comments are. So I get that. I get that. You might have to wait years. We had Connie Urkel, who lost her daughter, the Urkel Foundation, Victoria Urkel Foundation. She was to speak at our summit, but unfortunately her father passed away a day or two before the summit. But for her, it's about 20, 30 years removed. So she's able to talk about it. You're right, Doc. Right.
I know we're working with Columbus Public Health currently to basically get on social media with things and basically put like an APB out there and say, hey, if anyone has an experience with drowning and wants to either like talk about it, we're setting up this new alliance. We'd be happy to hear your story. And if they want to join the alliance and be a part of spreading the message and doing something about it from there, that's something that we're trying to do. But if they also just want a space where they can talk about the things that happen and what they think could help prevent it in the future, we're all for that community engagement as well. And so, yeah, I think trying to get community activists and voice involved is going to be something really big for us that I'm hoping to land soon.
Well, even Connie said that, Cait. She wandered into the first summit, just read about it in the newspaper or something, and she showed up and she said to me, thank God you weren't just one of those regular meetings of sadness. You know, she was taken with the proactive nature that we were actionable. We had actionable items because she, as a mother who had lost a child to drowning, had been to a lot of groups, but the groups were more about the drowning than they were about what are we going to do about this. So focusing on that, Austin, I think, you know, if you deliver the message, it can help us get these things done.
And I know too, and not to generalize, but speaking specifically with the Hispanic population, I think right now there's a lot of fear within that community. So I know Henry Cordican said the story he spoke about was he was in a Marriott resort in Florida, trained hundreds of lifeguards, thousands at this point, paramedic, ground 911 was there, one of the first responders from New Jersey when the towers went down. And he said one of the hardest things was someone called out when he was at this pool teaching his child how to swim, resort pool in Florida, super happy. And he turns around and a guy has a girl, 6 years old, Sophia, blue in her arms. And he said doing CPR on that individual was one of the hardest things. She didn't make it with his efforts. At least the parents were able to go and say goodbye. She was on life support for 24 hours. And he tried to work with Marriott to get lifeguards at such a resort pool, but they don't have to. Sophia was actually from New Jersey, which I don't know if he said that at the summit, but he said, he's reached out to the family multiple times and said, will you share your story? It's so important. But because of their immigration status, they're not willing to step forward. So I think that's just another layer that we need to be, especially, political climates the way it is right now. I think faith-based is a very safe place to go and spread that message of water safety, but maybe asking them to be out of their comfort zone may not be the best. And, that may be some conversations and questions to have as we're thinking moving forward.
Cait, I learned something yesterday when I went to the swimsuit station, and they both Jeanette and Jack, who own the company, are deep in their Jewish faith. And he sat down and he said, Judith, do you know that learning to swim is a high priority among the Jewish faith? And he then gave me some copies, which I'll share with the Alliance, of readings from the Bible that talk about learning to swim. So I think if we look at the JCCs and the synagogues, they're already there in their faith. So then maybe we can, play off of that. I had no idea, and he gave me all the excerpts about how learning to swim is to be important to members of the Jewish faith. And we do know that both politically and in support of social efforts, the Jewish community can be. So that might be somewhere where we should focus, Megan. I had no idea that was part of religious teaching in the Jewish faith.
Back when I started my career, one of the first jobs I had was a consulting contract with the Department of Health and Human Services, trying to get people signed up for Medicare Part D. And what we learned was that it was often not the seniors themselves making the decision to enroll, it was their children, right? That sandwich generation. And one of the marketing strategies that we talked about a lot was trying to reach people where they eat, where they play, and where they pray. And so I often think about how we can apply that strategy to water safety and drowning prevention techniques and education, right? People that are going to church trust their pastor or their rabbi or their priest. And so educating that population, I think, could really help us alleviate some of the pressure of feeling like it always has to come from this small circle of community leaders. We really need to broaden our tent. And I think that's a population that would be really receptive to helping us with that.
I like that. I wrote it down, Megan.
No, it's good.
Austin, what are some of your questions and thoughts about getting a coalition started? Or some of your concerns about the outreach to get people involved? Because sometimes you don't even know these people exist, right, Cait?
Yeah.
I mean, you and I
Yeah.
knew of each other, but there's
Right,
a lot
yeah.
of people we met, like Brizzo the mermaid, who is like a huge advocate, signing us up for everything.
So
and we had a teenage boy show up out of the blue, right? What was he, 14?
He did. He said he just thought it was such a great idea, and he convinced his mom and school administration he should be able to skip school, and he had to write a report on what we did at the summit. It was pretty cool.
It was great. But what are some of your concerns, Austin?
So we're doing a decent job just getting stuff together currently. Like we have the YMCA of Central Ohio on board. We've got it helps that I'm, a government worker, so I have close connections to Columbus Fire Department, meeting with them. We're getting the Ohio State University. We have an occupational therapist there who kind of specializes in working with people with autism. And so hoping that she's going to want to join the board and be a big advocate for that. And so in my mind, I'm kind of getting the structure of things together where we the my thoughts, and I'm totally open to anything that people have to say, is get the smaller board to help vote on the 99 points and like which ones are going to be the most applicable for Columbus, because we don't have Columbus, we don't have massive lakes or anything. We've got rivers, but there could just be some points that don't need to be a focus for us. And so have the board kind of vote on that, and then have the rest of the alliance in all of our different areas of expertise kind of carry out the action plans and what we can do to help implement those. I'm sure as we're going through it, we'll be like, oh, we need to get these people involved. We need to get these people involved. But I think, Judith, you spoke earlier about breaking stuff into 6 different categories. Would you be able to speak a little bit to what those categories are?
Sure.
And how you guys came to those conclusions?
Sure. The first thing is, don't underestimate the commitment of the public parks and recreation and the water parks. I spent a lot of years in the Midwest, and I'll sound like an Ohio conductor on a train, because I've worked on many Ohio projects, and they're enthusiastic people, both public and commercial water park people. So don't overlook them. And one of my favorite restaurants is in downtown Columbus, by the way.
Oh, which one?
It's a big fish. There's a big fish when you drive by it.
The Columbus Fish Market. That's
that
Cameron
one.
Mitchell restaurant. Yeah. So yeah, we do have the Columbus Parks and Rec. We have Gahanna Parks and Rec, Westville Parks and Rec, Dublin Parks and Rec, like plugging in all of our
I worked
big
on Dublin, as a
community.
matter of fact.
Did you?
Yeah,
Yep.
Twinsburg, Grove City, Columbus.
They're technically outside of our jurisdiction, but that's kind of the nice thing about my position is I get to be more of a people person rather than an enforcer, and just say, hey, are you against kids drowning as well? And typically people are pretty keen to sign on once we make that sort of pitch.
The bathing suit concept is so interesting to me. When I tell someone there's a child in New Jersey that doesn't own one bathing suit, they can't believe it. They're in shock. And then I can go further into it. So I got their attention. Now I can talk about why. Their parents don't swim, they don't swim, etc. So here's the lanes that we got down to. We called them lanes, like swimming lanes, very, very kitschy. So one is data consolidation. The biggest issue, and I saw Doc shake his head, yes, data. There's better data on sexually transmitted diseases than there are on drowning deaths. Like some people call them cardiac arrest, some people call them drowning, some people call them, and we don't get the follow-up on the people that survive and what that impact is on families, et cetera. So the first lane was data consolidation. How do we get the data from the beach patrols, from the health department, from hospitals, from the funeral directors association, from, where do we get the data and what data do we need? So the first lane was data consolidation. Another lane was drowning prevention tactics, which means more like the prevention side, the education side. How do we get that done? Another lane was lifeguard training and development, which is really crucial to all this, as we had lifeguard shortages, standardizing some certifications. We learned a lot about VRBO. If you have a lot of vacation rentals, that within the first 24 hours of a vacation rental with a pool, someone drowns. It's astounding. So you're renting a house, but maybe you never had a pool. Maybe you never, you don't know that pool. So there were things we learned about. And think about it. A lot of our incidents were at HOA pools, which in New Jersey do not require a lifeguard, hotel pools. So training and development for a wide variety of people and our entire coast, not unlike California, who has professional beach lifeguards. Our lifeguards are seasonal. And we're trying to raise their position, in first responders kind of thing. Another one was sustaining and financing the mission. None of this can happen without money. It's just the state of the state, right? How are we going to sustain this work? Because we can identify all these tasks, but like, how do we keep it going? We have an executive director that we've been able to hire for 1 day a week, and she does a huge amount of work, Linda Tower. But we're all great volunteers, but many of us still have some, work to do, business to do. I still have consulting business. So how do we keep it going? Collaboration between groups, and who will be the one voice is that one. And of course, number 2 is missing somewhere. Hold on. Here's 2. Driving public awareness. So I can show you here. See, they're like swimming lanes. Yeah, well, very clever. It's backwards, but swimming lanes. And we broke those up into groups, and people were able to pick their group or travel from group to group. And it was really interesting. They had to come up with the tops, the top 3. So they had these long lists, which we call the roadmap. And they had to pick 3 of the top ones, maybe out of 8 or 10 or 12. And those are the ones we're going to focus on, but we'll put the others in a parking lot, because you don't want to alienate anybody by saying, well, creating a code of conduct for lifeguards and how to respect lifeguards, and not so important. It didn't make the top 3, but it's still on our radar. It's still going to be in the parking lot waiting to move up, because we all want it. We're all overachievers, this group. And we all want to do a ton of things, but there's only so many hours in the day and so many things you can fund, Does that help, Austin? Austin, if you give me your email address or put it in the chat, I'll send you our final PowerPoint that we used on Summit 2.0 and the final video. You can watch the whole thing. How do you like that?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you
I'd
can
love
watch
that.
the whole thing. So let me see if I can figure out how to get it out of the chat. All this stuff is way too modern for me. ACS, Ray. I have to write it down.
That's all good.
Columbus.gov. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will send that to you so you can see it all in the PowerPoint.
That'd be awesome.
And kind of how we positioned ourselves. Megan, I do have to say we have a dynamite logo, don't we? Why don't you show your little present there again? Look, it's like the Garden State Parkway, and it's a Water Safety Summit. Then we had a 2.0. Megan, I sent you a gift. Did Matt give it to you yet?
No, I haven't gotten it.
Son of a
I'll
gun.
have to. I'll
I
have
have
to
one
ask him
here. Hold on.
about that.
This has to be shared. And Tina, if you play your cards right, maybe you'll get one. But I made us all these life-saving earrings.
Oh, cute.
So you tell Matt, all the women got earrings and all the men
Take
got
out the earrings, Matt.
wine caps that say lifesaver on the wine cap. But everybody said they never have any leftover wine in their wine bottles. The men all said, but Megan, you have a pair of these. So the next,
Oh, I can't wait to see them.
You
Oh, I'd like
tell-
to have them before NDPA.
yeah,
That would be
let's
nice.
wear them next week.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be great.
So we all
Excellent.
wear them,
That'd be great.
Again, it's the amusement park in me that does that.
Love it.
But I will be happy, Austin, to send it to you. And when you're really bored at night, you can watch us do a few hours of water safety.
Judith, if you want to send that to me, I can share that out in the follow-up from the call.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
then
sure.
everybody will have access to it.
I'd be happy to.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We also used it as you develop your sponsorship campaign, Austin. Like all the sponsors wound up, of course, being thanked everywhere and, posters everywhere and banners and everything. But also they all got a recording of it. They got the PowerPoints. You always have to respect the people that are bringing the money. And we've done everything we can to keep that good relationship with the pool and spa people. And I admire that because they're creating environments where people could potentially have a tragedy. So they've been really great.
Yeah.
And we all have
Absolutely.
vendors, that want to get involved once they hear about it. So go after your local vendors.
Yeah.
That supply, the lifeguard suits. We've had the water safety products, the original watermen, people that sell equipment for life saving, beach lifeguard equipment. They're all in.
Yeah.
We're getting there. But
That's awesome.
yeah,
I know.
now I have to focus on the strategy. Here's our plan. At the February New Jersey Recreation and Park show, we're going to be reviewing the priorities that were selected, take one more piece of input, and then May is Water Safety Month. We want to have a press conference at one of our indoor water parks to kick off Water Safety Month and release the strategy. So that's the plan.
That's
all I
really
got.
great. That's
It's a lot.
awesome.
Sorry, I
It's-
hope
it
I
is a
didn't
lot.
chat too much.
No, it was helpful, really helpful. And we'll be happy to have you guys included in next week's annual state of the plan meeting. So Austin, if you haven't seen the details for that, I'm sure Dr. Simonian has seen it, but if you wouldn't mind, if you have the time to attend next week, we're just giving an overview of all we've accomplished in the last year, what we have coming up. We'd love to have you join that. We also just launched today, if you didn't get the email, our new website. Yeah. So Tina, do you want to drop that website, that link in the chat? So eager to have you guys check that out, and hopefully it will be a really interactive tool for you to see what recommendations you might be able to implement in your community.
Yeah, I did see that, and that's you probably saw my last minute registration for this meeting. I was like, oh, there's one today. Let's make sure that
Awesome.
we're a part of that meeting. So
Great.
love the layout. It's looking really nice there.
And it's really
Great, thank you.
important to get all the lifeguard certification agencies in one place. We're so lucky that we have Cait, and she's, such a pivotal person in the American Red Cross, but it's important that all the certifying agencies approved in your state in the same room, working together. And we experienced that mostly at the first one, and then completely at the second, every group represented. Yeah.
Nice.
Good. Oh, thank you, Dr. Simonian, for including that video. That's awesome. Okay, great. Well, everyone, thank you for your time. Special thanks to Judith and Cait for kind of leading our peer leadership session here today. And hopefully we'll see you all next Tuesday, the 21st, for our state of the plan.
I will be there, and Cait we have a board meeting from 12 to 1, but then we'll both scoot right over to it. So we may be slightly late.
No worries. Okay, that sounds the first chunk of the meeting is going to be Tessa Clemens presenting for the first, like, I don't know, 7 to 10 minutes. So anyway, okay, and we'll be sure to record it so you guys can watch it afterwards if it's helpful. Yep.
That'd be sweet.
All right, thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.